Joining us now with reaction, author of the upcoming book, the sequel, the second in the series, Witch Hunt. That's on the heels of his #1 bestseller, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history. And that it is. Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett and Judicial Watch president Tom Fitton. Let's start, Greg. You had a great column about Andy McCabe and his rise to power today. We are still awaiting whether or not he's going to be indicted for lying and leaking. I don't know what the problem is, because all these other people that lied and leaked, they ended up, let's go through the list. General Flynn, set up, by the way, by McCabe and Comey in a way that denied him, I believe, his Miranda rights. Then we've got, Manafort. Then we got Cohn. Then we got Papadopoulos. Why would it not apply to McCabe and Comey?
Well, you're right. Look, Andrew McCabe is a guy who has helped put people behind bars for lying. The same legal standard ought to apply to him if there's any justice in our system of justice. This was a criminal referral by a neutral party, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, who said he lied not once, but 4 times. He said he never leaked information to the media, the Wall Street Journal. In fact, he did. He said he had no idea who authorized that leak when, in fact, he's the one who authorized it. And then he was allowed to correct the record and, in a tape-recorded interview, continued to spew his false denials. So, again, if we're going to apply an equal standard of justice and not selective prosecution based on politics, Andrew McCabe ought to be criminally prosecuted.
One of the things that a very good friend of mine told me earlier today that is very close to all of this is that one of the problems you have if a Democrat is indicted and a trial takes place in D.C., odds are 1,000 times better the Democrats gets better treatment than any Republican, Tom Fitton. And one of the things that I keep hearing is that they're waiting for the full damning story before they move forward. There are criminal referrals with any legal action or indictments, grand jury. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the idea that you might have a Democratic jury, I think, is just excuse-making. If that's the standard, no Democrat will ever be indicted for corruption here in Washington, D.C. It was the excuse not to prosecute Hillary Clinton during Whitewater. And it can't be the excuse again, because that's a get-out-of-jail-free card for the Democratic liberal establishment that's running this town, even though Trump is president. I don't understand the idea that you would wait for the big stuff while exonerating them or refusing to prosecute them for the little stuff. The response ought to be is that we're considering this as part of a broader investigation, and we're going to defer on prosecution decisions until we have all the FISA material in, if indeed that's the real reasoning here. But, Mr. McCabe, we just had documents come out a week or so ago. I think we talked about it here. 14 leaks exposed at the senior levels of the FBI special agents, not one prosecution. And one of those leaks highlighted in these documents that we received is the McCabe leak. And the detail is lack of candor under oath and lack of candor not under oath, both of which would be crimes if any other American committed it, especially when you look at McCabe's desire to go after Flynn and ambush Flynn with those FBI agents sent over with Strzok. The idea that Flynn, who did not lie to the FBI then, according to the evidence, that this man would be allowed to get away with lying to investigators both under oath and not under oath, both of which are crimes, it would be terribly disappointing to millions of Americans at the Justice Department, in addition to letting Comey off.
It's got to be equal justice, equal application of our laws, or we might as well just shred the Constitution. We can't have a dual justice system in this country. And look at all the people that Papadopoulos, Manafort, Cohn, General Flynn, which I want to ask you, Greg. So when General Flynn says, though, I need a lawyer, and McCabe tells him no, and then Comey brags about doing something he wouldn't do in the Obama or George W. Bush administrations and took advantage of the chaos and sent his guys in when they had already unmasked General Flynn. They had a chapter and verse on everything he said. Remember, the FBI guys didn't think Flynn was lying. So then you have to ask the question, well, why would he admit that he was lying? Okay, well, number one, he's going bankrupt. Number two, they're threatening his family. They're saying, well, we're just going to have to go after your son, too. I think that's why he said, I'll fall on the sword for my family. That's what I think happened. That's how we treat a 33-year vet that served in combat.
McCabe was instrumental in that because he was essentially lying and deceiving and trying to entrap Michael Flynn to pursue the Russia hoax against Donald Trump.
Did he deny Flynn basically his Miranda rights by saying, oh, no, you don't need a lawyer?
He did. And then you heard on tape Comey saying we would have never tried that with anyone else, any other administration. Look, these two guys are the symbol of malevolence and corruption. It should be frightening to all Americans that Comey and McCabe rose through the ranks to become director of the FBI, both of them.
Should he withdraw the plea? Should he withdraw that plea?
Oh, absolutely, Flynn should withdraw the plea, and I suspect he will now that Sidney Powell is the defense attorney.
All right, guys.
Well, the president can cut this all short by pardoning Flynn, especially if McCabe isn't prosecuted. I'd pardon Flynn in a heartbeat if I were him.
I agree 100%.
I agree with both of you. But who's going to listen to little old Sean Hannity? Apparently not a lot of people.
Oh, I think people listen.
Well, we need equal justice. And eventually, all of this has to be made public. This has to come out.